Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
Thanks for joining us. I'm going to finish that conversation right here in Iowa. We can't let this stand. There is no need to wonder what's happening. We have a Department of Inspections. They can call for an inspection. And I am told with ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, that once they do that, it is acceptable to withdraw any entity from Medicaid funds. Medicaid is the money that is supposedly trafficked through the state from the federal government to Planned Parenthood beyond the state money that may go. And even though we're told no state money goes to Planned Parenthood, others will tell you that 3 to 6 million possibly does. It's very difficult to figure all the trails, but 3 to 6 million with an M may be going to Planned Parenthood in some fashion. Others will tell you, yes, but it's for non-abortion services. It is time to quit playing those games. If it keeps the lights on, it's helping with abortions. If it pays the electricity, isn't that an electric vacuum that they often use? Isn't that helping with abortions? Think this through. We're splitting hairs and playing games. We're playing games with lives. These are lives. These are future Americans that we're stopping before they ever get their chance at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it is not within our place to do so. Not morally, not ethically, and not constitutionally, frankly. Iowa is a better state than this. So join me in encouraging, many of your state legislators already are. So this is not in any way a rebuke of them. They are doing great, great work. But it is time for those who can make it happen to do everything they can to politically put their career on the line. If you're not going to do it for this issue, what would you do it for? What much more matters than life? So it's time. And we don't need to play the politically correct games. This is not about women's health care. This is not a war on women. Ryan, if you'll put that clip up of the 2 Iowa state maps. For those of you who are watching, you can watch this show live 10 a.m. on Wednesdays on webcast1live.com. And so those 2 maps right there, you can see them if you're watching the show. 213 clinics, real choices for women. 213 clinics already up in Iowa that give the same services, all of the services that are provided at any Planned Parenthood clinic. And there are only 13 Planned Parenthood clinics, by the way. But 213, much more accessible. Women would not have to drive very far if we're talking about the low-income female. How much easier to get to a location when there are 213 scattered throughout the state as opposed to just 13. And there is nothing that Planned Parenthood does that can't be done at one of those other clinics. And by the way, just to remind you, Planned Parenthood does not do mammograms. Concerned Women for America in Iowa did a little bit of a research project themselves, call it a sting if you will, and called every clinic they could to ask if they had the equipment to do a mammogram. And we were told repeatedly no, and no, you would never have one at a Planned Parenthood. We will not have that equipment. We simply don't. Again, it's not because they can't afford it, because remember, they're getting $528 million in taxpayer funding each year at $1.4 million each day of your tax dollars. So if you need more money in your income, you should keep it in your home rather than going and protecting your children, helping feed your children, helping clothe your children, rather than going to Planned Parenthood and helping kill someone else's. It is as simple as that. It is time we deal with this issue and we take it on head on. So be calling your state legislators, be calling your governor, and I believe, again, that phone number, Ryan, did you check me out on that? Is it 515-281-2511? I think that's it. Yeah, otherwise, you can get online and look up your governor's phone number. But it needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. If your pastor's not talking about this, you need to have a discussion with your shepherd. It's not political. It was biblical first. And as someone said, and I thought it was a very good way to say it, if a pastor's concerned about helping people be born again in Jesus Christ, it's hard to be born again when you're not going to be born the first time. We need to deal with this. We need to deal with this issue. All right. I mentioned that we're on Webcast 1 at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. The show also then airs at 99.3 FM on Sundays at noon. 99.3 FM Sundays at noon. So tell your friends they can listen along. And I want to thank our sponsors. Christians for America, ChristiansForAmerica.com, Crave Revival, doing great work across the nation, great Pastor Don Swarthout wrote a great little book on the ACLU and how much that was costing taxpayers as it fought against what the majority of Americans believe, and then we get forced to pay for those court costs as well. But ChristiansForAmerica.com. And if you want to help this radio show, you can send any type of a gift to ChristiansForAmerica.com. You can find their address, and I can also provide it for you. But they help partner along with us, and that would be great as well. Otherwise, you can call Mac McCoy, J. Michael McCoy. We thank him for partnering with us through Webcast One Live, making the show possible. All right. As I told you, Mark Nelson would be joining me today. Mark Nelson is with Freedom for Youth Ministries right here in local Des Moines. I love it when we're doing what the church should be doing and ministering right in our area. Mark Nelson, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
We were talking before we went on air. I think I was probably interviewing you back in 2006 at least.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. That sounds about right.
You've been with Freedom for Youth since the beginning.
Yes.
Are you the founder?
Yes.
What caused you to start this group?
Because God asked me the question, who's telling these kids the truth? And I was reading about the homeless young people running the streets of Des Moines. And when God pressed that upon my heart, it led me to go under the bridges. And I found an 18-year-old girl addicted to methamphetamines, a runaway from Ohio that God used to birth this ministry. And what happened through her was nothing short of miraculous. And through the power of the gospel, loving this girl for weeks and weeks and weeks. She came to me one day and said, I'm ready to submit my life to Christ, and it changed everything for her. And that opened our eyes to see, there's many more hurting young people out there that need to know the truth, and they're not being told the truth.
So did you just take her into your home? How did you...
For a time, my wife and I got her an apartment, and so we were just helping her out in that way and trying to minister to her, and we learned a lot through it. Started getting her into church, and it was a struggle. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There were times that I would go down to her apartment, there'd be 8 kids in there having a big party. And so it was, we learned a lot in the process, but I can tell you this, that God's love is powerful and overcame all of that. And the burning question in her mind is, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even when you see what I'm doing to you.
Right.
And that, when she saw that it was the love of Christ in us, then she was compelled.
As you're telling the story, I'm thinking, I call it an analogy or whatever the word is there. I'm thinking about us with Christ. He is so forgiving. We were just talking earlier about he would forgive anyone who wanted to ask for forgiveness for any crime, any sin.
Yeah.
And yet we ask for it, and then we turn around and sometimes do the same thing over. Mm-hmm. And he's just as good to forgive us again.
Yes.
We see it with our kids. Sometimes kids have certain things that we tend to scold them over constantly. One child has an issue with something, and it reminds us we don't always learn the first time either.
Absolutely.
We sometimes, even as mature Christians, push our limits, I think.
And you know what? Our staff, and we have hundreds of volunteers working with kids now. We want our young people to see that we're no different than they are. It's not like we have arrived and you have to achieve some standard. We're all sinners in need of a Savior. We all need that grace. And I think when the young people see that and they understand that, then it's something that's for them too. It's not like I have to achieve a level. Christ came down to us, and that changes everything.
That changes us from other religions too.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have to meet some standard. We don't have to walk across the broken glass or anything else. We don't have to take a trip to Mecca.
Yeah.
God meets us where we are.
Yeah.
That's what I love about having you on, Mark Nelson. Everything you teach us, everything you say is a lesson for those of us, no matter where we're at. The high-paid professional,
Yeah.
the man who has succeeded, the woman at home with her children. It doesn't matter. The woman who has succeeded. Let me not be in any way sexist there. But it doesn't matter where we're at. Each of us have lessons to learn, mistakes we make, and a forgiving God who's waiting
Yes.
when we ask.
Yes.
So flash forward to the ministry today. You said you have hundreds of people?
Yes, we do.
Hundreds of volunteers or
We
employees,
have we have about 800 volunteers that touch this ministry every year, and over 200 that are active, like on a weekly basis. And this ministry is growing, and we have established centers in outlying communities in central Iowa and have a long-term vision to be throughout Iowa. And so this is really about uniting the church. It's bringing people together to love these young people who have never experienced that. It's not fair that here's these kids that have grown up in, homes that are just chaotic, where mom's on drugs and she's got a new boyfriend in the apartment every month that beats the kid. You want to talk about hopelessness? That's what these young people are facing. And we need to be there to say there is hope, and it's found in Christ. And he has given you unique gifts and abilities. Let's go find out what those are, and let's build a new life. And kids need to hear that.
So this is what I don't like about having a video along with the show. If people watch on Wednesdays, or they can go to tamarascott.com. You'll be able to get this interview on tamarascott.com, because guests like you make me cry. I get this red nose. But I'm hearing what you're doing for kids. This is what the church is supposed to do.
Yes.
And so what you're talking about is some of these kids maybe have missed up on their own, but many of them never had a chance.
Right.
Dobson was just saying on one of the shows I was listening to, or one of his minutes, that a child who did not have a close relationship with their mother, we've heard about the father, but that bonding that should have taken place with the mother is, more likely to get into, well, he was saying health issues, not just the risky behaviors we hear about, but health issues, real health, physical health issues. And the percentages he was giving, I won't even try to attempt, but these kids are facing not just the risky behavior, but health issues. Many of them don't know how to have a job, how to get to a job, how to be responsible. And so what you're doing is giving them a chance. You're giving them life lessons.
Yes. And if we do not stop this cycle,
Yes.
it just continues to the next generation. And what we're seeing right now is kids that, their family, 2-3 generations, everybody's been in prison. Isn't that just a fact of life? They've never stepped foot in a church.
So you're actually saving the taxpayers' money.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't even address the economic impact of what's happening, because that's not why we're here. We're here to win souls for Christ. But I can promise you,
It's fruit.
yes.
It's fruit. We'll be right back with Mark Nelson from Freedom for Youth. And here's a way that you can help. You'll learn when you stay with us right after these messages.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid,
I am Bernie Homs,
and I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed right or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team,
I'll take a call anytime.
and then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned. We are talking with Mark Nelson from Freedom for Youth. If you've wondered, you see things happening, you hear about problems in your community. I love the fact that this ministry is taking on right here in Central Iowa the needs of young people, families that are hurting, kids that really wouldn't have another way.
Right.
So thank you so much for being the hands and feet of God and the eyes and the ears to hear it and see it right here in Iowa. I've heard people say that we have to allow immigration so we have a chance to evangelize. We've got a whole mission field.
Oh, absolutely.
Under the bridges in Des Moines.
Yes.
I would say in our high schools.
Filling our schools.
In Des Moines, hurting kids. Even those, you're talking about kids who maybe never had a chance, but I'm telling you, kids who have two parents at home are lonely.
Yeah.
And hurting.
Mm-hmm.
So your group, tell us a little bit about the ministry. You're getting ready to do a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, before you do that, I want to talk about what's coming up in case people don't hang on with us. Don't miss this. October 13th is your event. What's going to take place that night?
We are having our annual celebration banquet. And this is our event to celebrate what God has done through Freedom for Youth over the last year and to cast a vision on where he's taking us. And so this is an event that we expect at least 600 to 800 people there. It does not cost to attend the event, but we are asking people who would be open to making a financial contribution, to starting an initiative maybe in their own community to reach more hurting kids.
So if someone's from another area, I don't know if you have something in Knoxville or Glidden, just a community that doesn't have something like this, you can teach them
Yes.
ways that they can start.
Yes. Freedom for Youth is about uniting the church. So we want to find those believers in towns that know that there are many hurting kids that are not getting reached. And we want to come in with resources, help you get started, and empower the communities, the people there to build and grow a program and to be self-sustaining.
This is what God called the church to do.
Yes.
When folks want to have all of these welfare programs, that's not what God called the church to do. That's
No.
not what God called government to do.
No.
This is the charity the heartfelt ministry that Christians and churches and private charities are supposed to do, not government.
Yes, and it's time for denominations to lay aside their own pride that says we have to do it ourselves. Can we not come together? Those of us that believe in the gospel, can we not come together and serve these kids hand in hand? That's what Freedom for Youth is trying to do, because not any one church can do it. We need to work together.
So for those business minds out there who want to be good stewards of their dollars, give us some of the, I don't know if you have numbers of stories you can, lives you've turned around, but the coffee shop. I mean, you're not just a hands-out charity. You're teaching these kids how to work, how to then be good stewards and have income come back in.
Absolutely. I tell you, we more and more every year are analyzing things and asking the question, is this enabling the kids or are we truly helping them? And so the coffee shop that we're building is an employment training center. The kids will have an opportunity to learn the soft skills of what it takes to be a good employee, and they're going to earn a competitive wage doing it. And so when people come in and have coffee or have lunch or breakfast items, they will have an opportunity to go in there and look one of these kids in the eye and say, great job, keep up the good work. And you know what? I have employers right now that are asking me, when is this going to be done? Because I want to hire your kids.
Oh.
We have employers everywhere that are saying, I cannot find people that will show up to work on time. I have communities in Iowa that run manufacturing plants that say, we can't find enough people to pass a drug test to work in our factory. We're talking about a change of heart. And when these kids have a change of heart and they know they're working for the Lord and He's given them gifts, everything changes and they become that employee that we need. I want to give you an example. A young man, he's an African descent, came from a refugee camp with his family over here probably 8 years ago. Mom and dad immediately went to work in the packing plant, I believe in Marshalltown, so never saw the kids. Well, this little guy, we had him in woodworking class and many things that we saw. He was a math whiz, and he had the potential to do well. And a lot of people got involved in his life and helped him and walked with him and pointed him to the Lord. This last summer, he got an internship at Rockwell Collins. Excellent. And they are paying for him in the aerospace engineering program at Iowa State, and he's killing it. And I would imagine they have a plan to bring him back as a full-time employee when he graduates. But there is an example of how many kids do we have like that have that potential, but it's untapped if nobody comes and tells them they can do it.
Other stories. Do you have other stories?
Oh,
I know you've helped.
We
so
have,
many
I
kids
think
over
the
the
last
years.
we counted, we had 6 young people that are now in the mission field. They're missionaries. One African girl who both of her parents were lost. One was killed in Africa, and then her mom died. She came over here as an orphan.
Wow.
And has now gone back to Africa as a missionary. Crazy, crazy stuff that God is doing. And of course, we give Him all the credit. God is doing this, and He is raising up this next generation. And it's phenomenal what He's doing.
You're not only repairing lives, you're repairing hearts. The Bible says, do everything as if you're working for the Lord, not for man. And if all of us had that attitude, no matter what we're doing, garbage collecting, composing music, doesn't matter.
Right.
If we all have that attitude, we'll all be better off. And so you're preparing hearts and minds, but you're also then helping the economy through this. And so you've got the coffee shop that's opening up. Is there anything else where people could help and support your ministry?
Yes, absolutely. And we always encourage people to come to our campus and take a tour. You cannot get a feel for what God's doing until you walk the campus, till you see the kids, welding and woodworking and alongside volunteers. There's a worship center there. To see kids after school worshiping is just amazing, and cooking classes and all of the things that kids are doing you'll see the hope in their eyes, and that's what it's about. And we're sharing the gospel with them.
So some kids live in homes you have provided. Do others come for just the after-school experience and then go back to their home?
Yeah, our programs start at kindergarten, so K through 12 are after-school programs. And so they have a place to live. And so we have vans. We pick them up at school. Some find their way there. Then we also have 2 transitional homes. Now, those homes are for 18 to 22-year-olds that have lost their way. And so they don't have any other options. They're typically coming from homeless situations. They've made bad decisions, but they've also been in bad circumstances. We have young ladies that have been sex trafficked, that have been abused as young girls, that are in a very broken state. And our girls' home, I like to think of it as a little incubator where God just has them, and He's healing them, and He's giving them self-esteem again. And starting, so imagine this: one of our girls from the house is going to be an assistant manager at the coffee shop.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah.
We're going to be back with more and how you can help. The banquet is October 13th at the Airport Holiday Inn, but you need to RSVP, and you do that 282-4822, 282-4822. We'll be right back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thanks for staying tuned with us. For those of you who are joining us by radio, we thank you for listening in. And those of you who are on podcast, thank you. Share this with your friends. If you have family or friends who may have a child who's struggling, Mark, do you take references? Do you take referrals like that?
Yeah, absolutely, we do.
And so I've seen these commercials on late at night when I'm up. There's a commercial, a public service announcement about someone having coffee or talking with a friend, and they talk about a child now being on drugs, and no one ever knows how to address that situation. You guys do.
Yes.
You can deal with that.
Yes.
You have a child if in your home, you're a loving home, but a child struggling with drinking, drugs, anything. You all can help at Freedom for Youth.
We would love to talk to them. Yes.
And for the phone number, if someone wants to call you?
515-282-4822.
Okay. And that's the same phone number where they can reach Joyce Jones to RSVP for your event.
Yes.
That's coming up October 13th, a Tuesday evening, October 13th. You know, a lot of times we think about children in the month of October. I can't think of a better time to have this event as well. And of course, the harvest, what you're reaping for the Lord.
Right.
October 13th, Airport Holiday Inn, 6 to 8 p.m. No cost to come.
Right.
If you would like to host a table.
Yes.
How many sit at a table?
10.
10. So if you have 9 friends that you would like, that you think could hear and learn and help, if you have some business owners who you think could help, think this through, folks. It doesn't have to be something huge, but if everybody gave something, if everybody chipped in a little, we could help this organization. I don't know of any other organization, and I'm sure there may be some out there, but your organization for over a decade now has been ministering right here in our community to families and to kids who have no family, and literally saving lives, but also saving kids for a place in a future, giving them a future here on earth. Sometimes we get really churchy and we talk about eternity, but making it here on earth has its challenges as well, and you're preparing people how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We think God is interested in all of that, and so we want the kids to know that they can have an abundant life right here through Christ.
I think this is a tremendous ministry. Maybe you can't come that evening. You can still call 515-282-4822 and find a way to help. You can get on their website, freedomforyouth.org. freedomforyouth.org. Check out some of their stories and find a way for you to help. Maybe you're wondering if you could come and be one of the parents that helps out, one of the volunteers that feeds into the life of these children.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any type of a screening or protection process before somebody's going to work with these kids?
Yes, absolutely. There's an application process and background checks that we do. Also do a couple references. So, we do a lot to protect our kids as well as our volunteers.
And so I know when we were on break, you were talking about yet more stories. Do you have the number of kids that you have helped or that have gone through your program? Do you know that number?
We really don't keep track.
You're really in this for the Lord, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're not in this for press releases.
And you know what? We get no government grants. And so I have nobody asking me, what are your stats? You know, I love it, Tamara, when somebody says, what's your success ratio? And I look at him and I say 100%. Because if we're doing what God tells us to do, He's in charge of the results. So if we're sharing Christ with them and loving them, aren't we fulfilling what we're to do? And so that's the way we look at it. Now, I can tell you, there are many, many children who have graduated that would not have, that are free from drugs that would not have, that would be dead right now. I'm thinking of one girl we just did a testimony on yesterday who is adamant. She was a meth addict, and she said, I would not be here if God had not sent me to Freedom for Youth. And she's out working and healthy. And so friends, know that God is working, and He cares so much for these young people. And so we have a lot of work to do. And we're taking this across Iowa. And it is a huge challenge. But myself, having grown up in a smaller community in Iowa, I see the struggles that are happening with the young people there, and the church is dying. And that's what we have to address. There are pockets where there are healthy churches and growing churches, but that's not the norm. The old mainline churches are dead, and it's time that we go and find these young people, and God will raise up a new church.
And the church it will be a new church. It just won't look like what we used to recognize.
Yes.
Very good. Are there other groups in the state doing what you do in this area?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-mm.
So again, thank you for that as well. Thank you for hearing and seeing, like I said, It's not just the hands and feet. It's hearing it, hearing the need, recognizing it, seeing it, and being obedient to it.
Mm-hmm.
So for our listeners out there, I don't know what God's putting in front of you today, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, but I would ask you to ask the Holy Spirit for revelation on what it is you're supposed to see, how it is you're supposed to help. Maybe you're supposed to come in and help Freedom for Youth. Maybe there's something else you're supposed to be doing. We're talking about all these kids who are struggling with their issues. I would tell you there's a fair number of adults out there who are struggling as well because they're not in that sweet spot where God has them, where God wants them to be.
Right.
Parting words, we've got 2 minutes left. What would you say to our listeners out there, men, women, children, doesn't matter. What would you say to them?
It's time to go. It's time to step up. We may not have a lot of time. Okay, let's start living like every day could be the last. And we have so many young people out there that are just lost, and they want to know the truth. They want to know.
That's right.
When we tell kids about Christ, they're like, really? This is awesome. Don't think that they don't want to know the truth. They do, but you know what? There's nobody there to tell them. And so let's go tell them. And we need your help.
Mark Nelson, Freedom for Youth, October 13th, 6 to 8 p.m., Airport Holiday Inn. I can tell you the food will be absolutely incredible at the Airport Holiday Inn. Call 515-282-4822. 515-282-4822. Ask for Joyce. We'd like to have your RSVP by October 5th. That's Monday. It's almost a week away. October 5th. Bring a table of 10 and find a way that you can be a part, plug in, and make a difference for this ministry. And I just thank you, Mark Nelson.
Well,
your faithfulness, what you've done.
It's all God. All of the staff that work at Freedom are so humble, and they know that it's God working through them. And we're here to serve the volunteers and to allow the volunteers to be all that God called them to be. And that's how this works. So.
And if you're an employer, it sounds like maybe you need to come because you might see a future workforce that you can tap into as well. That's the beauty of this show, is being able to get things in front of you that may not know about right here in your own community. And so I'm thankful, Mark Nelson, that you joined us today from Freedom for Youth. 515-282-4822 is that number, freedomforyouth.org. Also, you can go to tamarascott.com for information. We'll put this link on of the show and Truth for Our Time Facebook page. Again, you've been given great information. What you do with it is up to you. Be encouraged. Never be complacent.